How about now? Can you hear me now? I hope you can. Cool. So yeah, I'm gonna wait a few more minutes, and today's gonna be very casual. It's just gonna be a conversation. I'm gonna be paying attention on the chat as much as I can while we're talking. And yeah, I'm excited. Very excited about this stream. Talking a little bit about my career and the evolution, and I really wanna show like my very early animation because then it's gonna give you guys hope because it was really bad. I found recently on my YouTube channel like a lot of videos posted. I was just like, oh my god, I don't even have those files anymore. So I'm glad I can show that, I can showcase those things. And I'm gonna talk a little bit as well about my experience with immigration and changing countries because I'm from Brazil. I'm originally from Brazil. I'm gonna do a proper intro very soon. And there's a lot of like little details in terms of visa and when you get a job offer outside of your country, depending on where you're from. If you're from the US, this is not gonna concern you as much because US and Canada, they're very close in terms of like the how do you call like you can work easier being from Canada in the US, being from US working in Canada, being from Mexico as well because they're part of NAFTA. So, but to Europe, there's some few things to also consider. But if you're from somewhere further, then the process is a little bit more complicated. There are like a few steps, and I'm just gonna talk a little bit about how how was it for me. Cool. I'm following the chat here, so feel free to always talk on the chat. And let me just make sure everything is working on both YouTube and Twitch. And as you guys are watching, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be paying attention to the chat exactly for that. Feel free to ask any question while I'm still showing something. I don't want just to be me talking all the time. Yes, this will be recorded and will be posted on YouTube and Twitch, I believe, and Patreon. So cool. Well, gonna do a quick intro for those who doesn't know me and are new on the streams and the stream structure. My name is Alex. I'm a character animator, gameplay animator at Riot Games. I've worked other studios as a feature film animator before. Most recent was DreamWorks Animation, and then I also work at Blue Sky and Sony Pictures Imageworks. Before that, I worked on like several freelances, TV series, commercials, a lot of different projects, different industries. So that gave me a lot of experience in different segments. Let me take a look at the chat as well. And and that's pretty much it. I'm also the mentor and founder of the Animation Flow Academy, the Patreon. Most of you guys are coming here from Patreon. If you're not, you should check it out. The Patreon page, which I like to do. I really like to do it. It's my side hobby, my passion project. I do weekly lectures about animation. We have modules. We have the voting system, what the lecture is about, and I really like the community. We're a really nice community. I like everyone, how we're interacting there and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it about myself. I was your little Mavka while you're in Tenerife. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I remember the Tenerife team. Nice. Nice to see you here. How about the writer and actor strike? Is slowing down hiring process for animators? I don't think so. As far as I heard, it's not concerning anything for the animation industry on the feature film here in the US. Some stuff for VFX, it is getting delayed, so maybe some VFX animator are being impacted. I don't know if layoffs are happening because of that. If but I know some movies are on hold because of that. So it might happen soon. And I know some like contract people, they might not get renewed because the other project's on hold, but I don't have too much information on that. I don't know if in the animation area exists something like trainee. Yes, I believe the big companies they have internships and trainee programs that you can always take a look on the website, but there are always as well entry level positions that you can apply and like keep going up from there. But yeah, cool. Uh, so what I want to talk today, I want to start showing my progression, like my career, how I started very like very basic animation. As mentioned in the Discord, what's inventory level now for inters? That is a very good point, and that's why I want to show my my growing process. But again, this was many years ago, so the reality changed a little bit. I think the companies are looking for a little bit more than before, but we can discuss that in the end as like after seeing everything. Like I want you guys' opinion. Like you think I would be hired with those reels today, for example? So yeah. So let's start. I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna go back many years. I have one of the first bouncing balls that I did, and this is 13 years ago. So a little bit about my background. I was a generalist, CG generalist, work on 3D Max, and then I got my interest on animation. So before that, even before that, let's go one step before. I have still my website where I was doing modeling and rendering for architecture visualization, and I was also, fun fact, I was also teaching many years ago about 3D Max. It was a 3D Max formation where you go from start, basics of 3D Max, and you go through all the process. So what you see on the images here, some of them are like ready to use models. Most of the stuff I have to model myself, texture, render. And if you see this one I believe I model everything. This one I model almost everything. Those are like the models that I did like from scratch. So this is, I see how many years ago? 2008. So I don't know, 15 years ago. So that's how early I started. And that's where I was very interested in lighting when I started. And I really wanted to, this is all 3D Max and V-Ray. So I was really interested in lighting. And I really want to keep doing lighting. But the company I worked, everyone was so good at lighting that I was like, oh, I need to do something like something different because I'm not gonna be that good ever. And then I liked animation, and I looked up about animation. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. So my strategy was the 2008 crisis happened in the market, the real estate market, I believe, in the whole world. I got laid off from this job that was doing the modeling and lighting and stuff, and I started studying animation on the side. But I started getting a lot of freelance. Like this was like freelance jobs for lighting and interior design. This one I had like to suggest interior design and stuff like this. So I was doing a little bit of both. I was studying animation and like saving money to do animation mentor at the time, and which happened much later. We're gonna get there. And I was still working with lighting. So this we rewind many years ago. Then we go to bouncing ball. This is one of the first bouncing ball exercises I did 13 years ago. So this fast forward like 2 years. And it's one of the first bouncing ball. I was trying to learn Maya, and I did some like animation tests before this, but it was mainly to start learning Maya. And I believe, I don't know if this was before, this was after, but I also took a class at Melies in Brazil. It's an animation school. It was an animation school, now I think they're a college. And it was like it was the first online class. It was like one of the first online class when this wasn't even a thing yet. And I did a few exercises there. You see, like class 13, Marionette was the name of the course, and this was 13 years ago as well. So that was like my first experience with animation at all. Of course, we had like bouncing ball and stuff, but I only have a few videos here. So you see, this is like one of my first jump. This is after, yeah, 2000 Brazilian real per month. At the time when I did, I think it was one of the first terms. I think was like the whole thing 3 months, less than $2,000 or something. No, 2000 Brazilian real. Because I remember it was like one of the first. Cool. So this is after like a lot of mentor feedback and stuff. It's not my first animation. I don't have like the first, but this is like very early. Here we have like the assignment was to make the character scared. So that is my blocking, I believe. And it's very funny to see. How do I loop? Yeah. And I did this all on 3D Max because I had no experience with Maya, and they supported some rigs for 3D Max and for Maya, so I used the rig in 3D Max. And you see like the sofa is really nice, the lamp, because I was doing this before, but then the character looks horrible. But still, assignments for this training. I have another one here, the tennis assignment, and oh my god, I see those things. And that's why I understand when you guys submit me something. I was like, yeah, but try to pay attention. Like, what is this ball not even connected to the hand? So, yeah, those are like very, very early. And all of those 13 years ago was when I took this class. But this was like a great breaking point for me to figure out, like, oh yeah, I really want to go more into animation. So I think I will like keep studying on the sides, and whenever I have like enough money, I'm gonna start Animation Mentor. That was my goal. Was like iAnimate didn't even exist at this time, and then when I was about to start Animation Mentor, iAnimate showed up. Anime School didn't exist at this time, so the industry was very very young at that time. And we have like great companies in Brazil like Vetor Zero, and Sigus Fly. They're like great companies, and it was always my goal to work with them. Cool. And here's a bouncing ball with tail. This was after I finished that training on Melies, and I started like going to Maya because I saw the industry was in on Maya, and you have like better rigs. I was just like, oh, let me learn Maya. And I did this. So you see, it's always good to go back to basics and make sure you work on the basic exercise. I didn't animate the tail. The exercise was to animate the tail, and I just did a ball, and I never did the tail. But you see, I'm trying to think about rhythm. I was looking up a lot online, but very early exercise as well. This was another one very early, bouncing ball with obstacles. I think it was from the Melies, and I'm actually very proud of this one because it shows nice rhythm and it shows like a good control of the of like the overall idea. And this was at the same time I did like the guy trying to play like on the tennis, the one on the sofa. So you see how this is much better. I should have focused more on the basics instead of trying to jump on and like I'm gonna do an acting and things like this. And one thing that made it easier, I'm not gonna say it was easy, but made it easier for me is that I had experience with the software itself because at this point I think I wasn't teaching yet, but I was using the software. And when you're young, you get like technical stuff easier. So I had a lot of experience with the software, so I didn't struggle with the technical aspects. I was very like fast to move the viewport around, fast to move the objects around. So that made me make a lot of mistakes faster instead of just like really try to position. Like when you struggle to put up an object in a certain position and then you're like, okay, and this doesn't work. This is what I think it takes the most time for people who are jumping into 3D animation and they don't know the software and they struggle to like understand what is happening with this like 3D space. How do I like move stuff around? So yeah, so this one I'm watching this one again because it is really nice. And then we have my first animation reel. I believe this is my first animation reel, 12 years ago for junior positions. And let's take a look. Gonna let it play again with sound.
You know, that is really getting annoying.
Look, I have one job on this lousy ship. It's stupid, but I'm gonna do it, okay?
Sure, no problem.
I'm not protecting anybody but myself.
Cool. So that was my very first reel after finishing the training on Melies that I said, trying to learn Maya. These dialogues are from 11 Second Club. 11 Second Club is still around, but it was always very interesting for me to like participate. And I believe this one I was on place 100 something, 120 out of 140. It was like really, really bad. This one I got place like 80 or something. I can try to log in and see my history. And this, what else? This one was like on the company I worked. We tried to do a short film. I did the animation and the render on it. Not the whole animation. This, which looks the best job here, I need to say like disclaimer that I copied the tutorial from Jason Ryan. So I literally got the same character. I watched the tutorial and I copy one to one. So I was just like, okay, I'm gonna try to do the same. But I should have noted somewhere here. I didn't, and it doesn't look as good as his animation. And then a lot of like trying to do tests here and there. This was my first reel, which didn't get me any job, of course, because this is
I'm
not
not protecting any.
not on the level to join a company as an animator. It got me an interview at one of the Brazilian studios, but I didn't have enough experience with Maya. They asked me to do a test, and I went to the company. I tried to do the test, and I didn't pass on the test because they they said I took too long to do it because I didn't know Maya. And they're like, "Oh, the outliner is here." I was like, "What is outliner?" I didn't even know what outliner was. And the animation wasn't good, and I was taking too long. So they're just like, "Oh, we're choosing to someone else." Cool. So that was like my first animation reel, but I was still during this whole time, I was still working as a 3D artist, like a lighting and render artist. So it's not I wasn't just like studying, which if I took a break and was just studying, I think it would be better. I would like be able to improve more, but at the same time, it was a good balance where I was like working as a 3D artist and at the same time studying animation. And I was still in college. I have a degree in industrial design with focus in graphic design. So I was still in college, and all of this was on the side. I was still learning about like color theory, art history, etc., etc. So this was all on my extra time. Cool. Now we keep fasting forward, and then here was the first company that I had the opportunity to work doing some animation 12 years ago. So I was again lighting and rendering artist there, but we're doing some visualization for museums, and what they do is like they project something on an acrylic plate, and you can see the character on the photo. So this is like a photo, and this is about like the animals in Brazil. So here I was able to animate. Oh, my camera is like right on top. Let me play it again. So here I was able to animate this character and also do like the hand, the render, the hair, the look depth, all that stuff. Because we had to match those trees as they were part of the photo, so we have to kind of match so everything looks the same. So that was one of the first professional animations I did, and this happened. I was hired as a not as an animator, but as a generalist, most focused with lighting and rendering. And I remember the owner of the company, my boss at the time, he said like, "Oh yeah, you're very good at lighting and render. You can do some animation sometimes." But they had someone that was doing rigging and animation. So it's like you can do some animation sometimes, but you're actually good at render and lighting, so don't distract yourself too much with animation. I was like, okay, cool. But I wanted to do more animation. And they were really nice to let me do it. And from the beginning of times, for example, here, I was planning in 2D. I was trying like, okay, what the character is gonna do. So that was like a 2D test, and you see my drawing. Not, I wasn't a great artist, 2D artist, and still this day, I feel like I would do the same 2D here, just to mark like the rhythm, the poses, stuff like that. And then the CG version. Again, I did the render. You see like this rock, this thing here. I had to cut where the character is, like put the shadow on the right places and stuff like that. So basically, you have to model the object the same as it shows in the photo and use like a matte thing so you see the shadow, and some of them don't even match. If you look up here, the shadow is like down here. But those are one of my first professional animation uh, works. I have the and then this was a great experiment I did. So after after many years, I don't know, this is 11 years ago. So after 2 3 years from what we saw on all of this while I was working here, and when I was working here, I was also teaching. So I decided to stop working on this company where I was a generalist, continue teaching, and take animation mentor online school from basics to advanced. But before taking animation mentor, I tried like, okay, I'm gonna try to do the best I can on 11-second club again, the best I can an animation shot, and then I'm gonna compare in the end of animation mentor.
Think Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
This was the blocking, and I believe this was the final that I submitted.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
Cool. As you see here, this was on Maya, which was a big thing for me. But as you see, it's getting better compared to the first things we saw, but it's still not quite there, of course. I was still struggling a lot with like everything in animation. But here's where I decided like, okay, I'm gonna really try to push animation. But you see how long it took for me to go from zero to not even have a job in animation yet. And then I decided I was still working like teaching, doing animation mentor, and I was finishing college. I think I finished college right before animation mentor. I think I did one term while I was in college, then I finished college, etc. And yeah, I have some like hair hair tests here, not important, but like hair sim, VFX. I modeled the character, lighting, everything during the class that I was teaching. And I believe here is where we start getting into animation mentor stuff. So this is one of the progress reels. For the sound. I believe this I was on like class 5 or 6, I believe. So
Come on
2013.
in.
Oh, very nice. Very nice room.
Not in the room yet, sir. Hold on. You might want to repack your things. We're
No.
going to be moving again shortly.
I will not move to a smaller room.
Sir, this is your floor. I'm going to take you to your room.
This is not my room?
This is the elevator. It takes you to the floor where your room is.
Because it's me going back to school and he's gonna be all, you can do it and how can I help? And I'm so proud of you.
Cool. Yeah, I believe this is one of my earliest reel from Animation Mentor. I believe this is class 5, so this is right before the polish class. So this was like after I did the 11-second shot, 11-second clip shot, I started studying Animation Mentor. Very very grateful for all the mentors and students, friends that I made there. We help each other a lot. The community is very nice. It helped me a lot to grow, and the mentors are very nice. But you still see that like we can start seeing a little bit of good mechanics, but definitely not good acting. I have some questions here on the chat. I'm gonna leave the reel playing. Did you get the job after done 11 cycle of animation? No, I didn't get any job, and I was constantly applying when I was like after doing like 11 second. I was constantly applying because I wanted to join an animation studio and study on the side, but I never got the job, and I was just like freelancing still for lighting and generalists. What would I do on the scenes? Yeah, we can go back to this and I'll tell what do I do. But basically, just do it better. Better choices. At the time you were a animation mentor, what was your flow? Blocking, blocking plus, spline? Yeah, exactly. I was doing step blocking basic poses, then blocking plus, then spline. I didn't know there were different workflows. I thought it would always be like this because some of the older mentors they come from the 2D background, so they do poses like main poses, and then they start like tie down, and they refer to the 2D animation. And that remember this is like 9 years ago, so 2012, 2011, no 2013, yeah, because I think I started Animation Mentor 2012. Do you ever feel demotivated that time? Yes, all the time, because I was always like doing a lot. I was putting a lot of time on it, and I wasn't getting the job. But I kept going because I didn't want to give up. But I felt like I remember when I did like the test for the company. It told me like, oh no, you're not good enough. It's always like a very sad feeling, very hard to hear that. So yeah, that's it. This is like my first reel, my second reel after um the first reel, like after Animation Mentor a little bit. And is this a different reel? And let's see what this one is. I don't even remember.
You screwed me, Dad. Okay, you said everything was gonna be fine, and nothing is fine. Nothing is fine.
You need to be alive. You need to be awake, so you can spend all your days knowing that I have taken everything that was supposed to be yours.
I remember now. This reel was after Animation Mentor. I also took Animation Collaborative with really good mentors. That changed a lot of my workflow and my way of thinking. This one was the reel that I finished after like all this study time, Animation Mentor, Animation Collaborative, and that this shot is from Animation Mentor, but the shot before and the shots after were from Animation Collaborative. And this one's where I start paying attention like specificity. I never really finished these shots like IP pass, but I start thinking about specificity. I start thinking about acting. I think about character personality, and still like focusing on mechanics and stuff like that. So this was my final reel. Like okay, I'll try to get a job in animation now. I took the time to do the class on animation collaborative, so I wasn't working. Meanwhile, I did some freelances at the same time, but this was like my final student reel. So this was my entry level reel to try to join a studio as a junior. So that's where I can ask you guys, you think I would be able to join a studio with this reel this day, or this is too outdated already? While you guys are typing there, I'm gonna keep going on the chat. I see a friend here saying I want to go there, it was really expensive. Yeah, that's what I think as well. For me, the main struggle in the beginning was how to find good quality education that wasn't extremely expensive. Because I wanted to do Animation Mentor, and it took from the day I wanted 2008, that was like my first contact with animation, to the day I had enough resource that is like money and time, and especially money. It took me 4 years. I did animation mentoring like 2012 and end of 2011, 2012. So that was me saving money, doing freelance, and saying like, oh no, this is gonna go to animation mentor, because it was like extremely expensive. Like at the time, I believe it was like $3,000 a term, and the term was like 3 months. So that's why, and that again, not trying to say make an ad in the middle, but that's why I made Patreon, where you can join and watch all the videos for like just $1 can still watch all the videos and have all the content there. Because for me it was really hard to find any information about animation, and no one would tell me. It was really hard to find on YouTube, and it was different times. You didn't have as much as today. You can find a lot more information today. But yeah, so I see here. I think this could get an internship, but a job would be hard. I would say yes. Yeah, I agree. I never, I never got an internship. I applied for several, and I was always applying everywhere, but never got an internship. But with this, I start getting some freelancing. I'm gonna go back here. I started getting some freelancing in animation, and my strategy was I'm gonna freelance in animation and in lighting, where in lighting, because I had at this point I had like a lot of experience with lighting and like interior design and stuff, I could charge more for lighting and charge much less for animation freelance. So whatever animation appeared, I I tried to do it, just like even it's very junior, very simple. And then lighting, I'll go for like a more. I wasn't even senior. I was just like taking care of the whole project, and then I had people like some students were helping me, and I would just like have a team of like two people. Not even it's not even a company. It's just like, oh, let's do this together. Can you do this? Can I do this? And then that will pay my bills for like the whole month, for example. And then with the animation, I was more getting more for the experience. And it's gonna be hard to find. I don't think I'm gonna find any of the older stuff that is not online, but I had it. I had a few things here that I wanted to show. But that was pretty much my strategy until I joined. I believe the first studio I joined was Vagalume Studios in Brazil. I had a friend that was working there as a rigger, and I was like, "Oh, can I go there visit?" And then I talked to them. I told them like I showed this reel, and I told them like, "Oh yeah, I'm studying for so long. I just got this reel. I do lighting and stuff." And they were very nice. It was like, "Oh, cool, cool. You're studying for so long. Yeah, we can try to give you some shots from this project that is coming." And the supervisor was like amazing. It was one of the best animators I know to this day. He is like amazing animator, and he helped me a lot, and he was very curious about like me studying on all the schools. He did animation mentor for a little bit as well earlier, but he was amazing. He helped me a lot understanding how the reality is when you get like a rig and like a client request. And I freelanced for them once, only in one project. Then they didn't have more projects, and this guy left. He went to Sony on that time, very long time ago. And then I got a freelance for a Brazilian studio that has an office in Argentina for like a very simple thing. And I started getting like little things like this. I'm trying to see if I find any of those older stuff. But it's gonna be pretty hard. But I can just like keep. Oh yeah, found this one. So this was the freelance I got right after having that reel that I showed, and it was for Nickelodeon was the client. I didn't do everything, of course. I'm gonna tell you guys what I did. I did this one, the hippo ballet. I did this zebras, and I did this anteater. And I believe on the end I did some of the crowds. So yeah, this was very long time ago as well. But it's cool to see all this very early stuff. So that was one of the first professional jobs that I did like as an animator, not as a generalist helping with animation, not as a lighting. I didn't do anything in lighting. I got the animation shots. Yeah, this one I just helped putting like these zebras here. Oh, I did this high five. Yeah, yeah. My memory is being in use today. So, yeah. So that was really cool. That was like my first experience. And then the other one, I don't have the other one that I just mentioned. And with that, I joined a company in Brazil that does TV series. I was working there with TV series, The Adventures of Fujiwara. I forgot, Buba Film is the name of the company. And then I finally and I kept studying on the side, but I was focusing. It was the first time I was like, okay, I'm gonna be full time. And I remember the salary. If I compare, it would be half of what I was making in lighting. And I was just like, no, because I was a junior. So I was just like, no, I'm still gonna leave this reel playing. So I had this reel, and I got those freelance, and then I got this full-time job, and I was just like, should I go? Because like it's gonna be half of the salary that I can make right now. I can make one freelance right now that's gonna pay like 2 months in lighting and interior design. But then I took the risk of like, okay, it's gonna be good to like know people from the industry, more experienced people. I can learn more. And I think I worked there for like 7 months, I believe. And then I kept working there and stuff. And then I got a job at Wizard Animation, the Russian studio that does feature film. And that was the first actual higher quality job that I did. It was to work on Sheep and Wolves, the movie. Sheep and Wolves. Wizard. And again, the community helped a lot. Uh, I believe this one, yeah, 8 years ago was the teaser, so that was probably 9 years ago. And you see the quality is much more decent. And it was very hard to work on it for me. It was very difficult because I didn't have any experience, but I tried really hard. And it was remote work, one of the first remote work. It didn't pay a lot, but at the same time, it was good that I was getting some actual real experience. And I believe I have a Vimeo here. Let me find so you guys don't see spoilers. Cool. And then I work on Chip and Wolves. I got like some freelance stuff here and there until I got to my reel that took me to Canada. Currently, I'm working with that studio as freelance animator. Yeah, I did that as well. Then that was great to see. Some of build this out and rather than taking this experience by learning it by yourself. I didn't learn by myself. I had a lot of help from like mentors and trainings and friends and people that I worked together. Oh, I forgot to show a few things here. So this was my basic animation mentor test. Okay, so this is my okay. I found a few cool things here. So this one I'm really proud of this one. My animation mentor ball with legs assignment. So this one's pretty cool. I really like it. I still like it. There's some hits here and there, but overall I still like it. I was trying really hard on animation mentor. And then here is my 2015 reel. So that was after working on
Pause! And who'd like to live in a happy, friendly pack where no one bullies anyone? Blah.
Bleh.
Blah.
Sis, can Grace stay with us forever?
I'm hereby declaring the North Meadow off limits. I forbid anyone to go there. Pucho, look.
You've been an amazing audience. It's been nice knowing you, but I'm out of here.
See everything outside our dimension. That's eternity. Now to us, it's a sphere. But to them, it's a circle.
Call him. See if he'll come save you.
Yes. Wilford the Merciful. Call him.
You screwed me, Dad. Okay, you said everything was gonna be fine, and nothing is fine. Nothing is fine.
Cool. Yeah, that is a good representation of the reel that I used to get most of of the job. So this one took me actually like it got a few freelances here and there, working on Talking Tom, the the 2D game on the phone, doing some like nice stuff in there. I work with some other freelance here and there, but this was the reel that actually took me to Bordel in Canada. So I applied with this reel, and I applied several times to all the studios. And then like one of the animation mentor friends that was working there like, oh, your reel is really good. I'm gonna talk to people here, see if they received. And I got the call to have an interview, and this reel got me the job as a TV series animator on The Adventure of Puss in Boots and Bardell. So it was I remember this shot was like really hard. I did the crowds as well, but it was like super hard, and the supervisor was very good doing like drawovers and stuff, but it was like extremely hard to get this shot done, especially. Cool. So that was my first reel that took me to like a studio that was doing something in my opinion, something like a little bit more, uh, not I wouldn't say important, but higher standard. You see a lot of animators trying to go there, and Wizard as well. Wizard was also, but because it was remote, it's kind of different feeling. Should we have to put over industry work first, then personal work on the reel? So I chose to do that. Oh, yeah, and I need to talk about this one too. So I chose to do that, and if you see my reels, I don't keep trying to reuse old stuff. I'm just like, okay, it's bad, cut it and do not better thing, cut it, do better thing. And I wanted to put this IP pass because I think the acting was more interesting, in my opinion at the time. Now I don't think that, but I still kept some of the older stuff, which I still liked it, to keep the reel around like 1 minute 15 seconds with the intro and outro. Always trying to keep this range of like time, but I remove all the stuff that I didn't like before. If you remember the previous reel, this one, I removed like this shot, I never liked it. I removed this shot. This body mechanics shot, I like it. I should have just like finished it and kept on my reel because like a nice sequence and thinking better about like how to hook them up. This one I don't like it, and this one I don't like it. So I just removed the ones that I didn't like, and then I replaced by things that I thought was better. And yes, I had to move to Canada. I had to do the whole visa thing, and that's why like not being from the U.S. or an English-speaking country, it's very important that you also. I never took like English classes, but I was constantly trying to get my English better and studying English because it is it is hard when you're like you have to move, you have to do all this stuff in English and things like and it's like extremely exhausting for your head. I think the biggest advice for anyone who wants to work on like a bigger studio outside of your country if you don't speak English is focus on having a solid English. You don't need to be the best. When I moved to Canada was pretty my English was really bad, but I still like kind of figure out. So it's like that balance. Don't just like be the best animator if you can't speak English at all and you're afraid to speak English and you can't really do anything. It's gonna be much harder for you. Cool. Let's fast forward more and then I worked at Bardell for a couple years. I did some other freelance things here and there, etc., etc. Then I decided to take the Anim Squad class because I work at Bardell. I was like, yeah, cool. It's like really good. I made like very good friends, very good animators. And I was just like, yeah, cool, but I still want to work on. And Sony Imageworks was also in Vancouver. It's like, oh, cool, but I want to work on like an, a bigger studio, like work on a movie, a feature film studio. That was my goal. So I did Anim Squad, And if you guys know my shot, this La Vie en Rose, so I have a story about this shot that I think will be worth mentioning. So this is the shot.
Hold me close and hold me fast. This magic spell you cast. This is la vie en rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close my eyes, I see la vie en rose.
Cool. So yeah, this shot it was during my workshop with Anime Squad, and it was very interesting because the workshop is 3 months. I did one shot before. Probably one of the reels is gonna show the girls like doing makeup, and then I did this shot, but I didn't have a lot of time. During the like it's 3 months, so I think I spent like a month and a half on the first shot, and then I started doing this shot, and I tried to finish everything. The mentor was very good and gave me like great notes, and then when I finish, that's the interesting part. When I finished the workshop, that's what I had, and I even render it. I was like, okay, cool. That's the shot I have.
Hold me close and hold me fast. This magic spell you cast. This is la vie en rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close.
So the curious thing about this one is that I finished, I did the lighting and stuff. I was just like, but I didn't like it. I never posted. I put on my reel with password to try to apply to Sony. Sony was hiring at the time, but I didn't really feel like it was the whole idea I had for this shot. I still finished, but I didn't feel like it. And then I applied Sony, they denied. I applied to Sony probably 4 times until I think on the fourth time I got the job there. Just a spoiler, but I applied several times, got denied several times, which is normal. But I applied with this shot on the reel, and it didn't get there, and I wasn't happy with this. So if you see here the view count, like 22, because I never posted online, because it wasn't the way I imagined this shot. So then I took another job with Chad, met some amazing supervisors, really good animators, and I did like few projects with them. I went back to Bordel, etc., etc. And then I decided like, okay, there was the Disney trainee program. I'm gonna try to do this shot like the best I can until this date, that is the trainee. And I pushed myself like really hard. I remember I was working at Bardell from like 9 to 6, 7, trying not to do any overtime. And at home I was working from 7 to like 2, 3 a.m. during like a whole month. It was crazy. It was super pushed. But then I got this shot to where I want like what I envisioned. And I did myself like all the particles here, and I did the cloth. I never did cloth before. I was like, no, I don't want her to look like this. It doesn't make sense for the story. I want to tell like a story here. And I did the render, paint the skin, everything. So I used Marvelous Designer for the cloth, V-Ray and 3D Max for the render, and like this change here. And I tried to change everything. Even this camera not matching was on purpose. And I cleaned the background just like the focus is on them. And I tried to polish, and I did make a big change here. It was feeling a little bit too repetitive, so I cut the camera here, did like this depth of field thing, and I cut the camera for a close-up because I wanted to show their faces. So I think all of this added a lot for me, for this shot in specifically. How long was it? So at first it was like a month. For this version here was like a month and a half on my extra time because I was still working. And then I believe I took like 1 month extra, month and a half extra, something like this. I didn't really count because it was a lot of scattered time and I was still working like full time. But this shot was the one who opened the doors for all the great jobs that I worked on till this day. people still like this shot. So this I applied to Disney trainee. They replied saying like, "Oh, your work is really good, but it's still the acting is not quite there. They love this shot, but the other one they think the acting it needs to be more specific." They give like a feedback, something like this. But then I applied to Sony, and they hired me for Hotel Transylvania. So it was when I joined Sony ImageWorks, work on Hotel Transylvania, and with the same reel, let me try to find the reel that I joined Sony. With the same reel, I joined Blue Sky because I work on Hotel Transylvania. The project was over because I believe it was this reel, yeah. So I work on Hotel Transylvania. The project was over, and I had to find another job. They didn't keep me for the other projects, so I put this on.
Hold me fast, this magic spell you cast. This is la vie en rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close my eyes.
Faux! C'est Nicole qui a acheté mon pâté chez IGA!
Dark thunder. Zombie uprising. You know, the usual suspects. Oh, and mannequins. Mannequins are terrifying.
Okay, Dan, because with your face, when you attempt to be charming, it really does come off as evil.
Yeah, this one's a great reel to see and compare. You see that I'm not using anything from Puss in Boots, which I worked for 2 seasons in Bardell. I'm not showing anything from Wizards anymore, even the render, like the movie was out and render. And I'm just trying to show the best of the best job that I did. And this was the job I said in Shed Montreal. This bear. It's really nice. Shows very heavy mechanics. This one as well was in Shed. And this one was a freelance for a Brazilian studio, Roof Studios. Really good supervisors and animators in there as well. Got the opportunity to work on like a really cool sequence of shots. And my personal shots. Opening the shot with this, my favorite shot, and closing with this other one. So this was the reel that did not get to Disney trainee program, but it got to Sony and Blue Sky. So I applied to Sony. I worked there for 6 months, five months, I believe. It was my contract only for Hotel Transylvania. I finished, and then I started applying everywhere. I tried to go to the Willoughby's movie, didn't get chosen. I got a lot of like denies as well while this whole project. I didn't like just apply like, oh, you got the job, you got that job. I didn't get to Animal Logic. I tried. I didn't get to some VFX studios. I applied. They didn't hire me. I had the opportunity to go back to Bardell. They were interested in having me back after Sony. And Sheds also wanted to have me back after Sony because I did few projects with them. They like it, but they were in Montreal. And then Blue Sky was surprising because they needed temp animators. So that's where they saw this reel and they saw that I just finished a project at Sony. So it was the combination of having the reel plus having the experience of working on a big studio, like a feature film studio and a movie that is coming out. And then they gave me the chance to work as a temp animator. And after I had my other reel with Hotel Transylvania stuff, which I believe I don't have the reel itself because I replaced it. I replaced the link. But this is my Hotel Transylvania shots. So after I had Hotel Transylvania shots plus the shots I have on that reel, I didn't put everything, of course. I applied to DreamWorks, and I was very lucky that they needed a lot of people at the time. So they decided to give me a chance to work there, and then I joined DreamWorks. And the rest is more recent story. you guys, if you guys are following me for a little bit, you know I'm posting like breakdowns. I work on the Abominable first, then the How to Train Your Dragon holiday special thing, and the Boss Baby, Bad Guys. And with that, I went to Riot Games where I am right now. So I'm just fasting forward the end a little bit so the stream doesn't get super long. And I want to open for questions. So my 2019 reel is this one and doesn't have bad guys, I believe. But this should be one of the latest reels I have made. I don't think I did another one.
Rivers? Oh no.
He's.
Clutch of rare whooping snakes. I hope you're not hurt. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Zara.
I know who you are.
You do?
Dark Thunder. Zombie uprising. You know, the usual suspects.
Oh no, Drac, she's not coming.
Oh, don't worry. Mavis is with her. I'm sure everything is under control. Denisovich, you're supposed to be with me. Come on now, kid. It's family time. Quit.
Huh? Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Cool. So that's one of my latest reel. I might have a more recent one with Boss Baby stuff, but I'm gonna make a more recent one and show later. I'm gonna go on some of the questions here. Did the cloud sim as well? On the dance shot, yes, I did a cloud sim with Marvelous Designer. I designed the dress itself, so I didn't copy anything. And yeah, it was challenging, but it was cool because I have this generalist background. Uh, yes, that was the reel for Riot, by the way. Because I had the generalist background, I kind of like new tech stuff, so it wasn't like extremely hard. How did you get the reference for this dance shot? I watched um, a lot of movies and videos on YouTube. I remember La La Land at the time. It was a good inspiration. They have like some dancing shots in there. I look at a lot of Frozen 1 for like they have the music First Time Forever, I believe. So I look at some of the dance for them, and I look on YouTube, of course, like actual dance moves. Yeah, it does look very La La Land. It does look very like Frozen. And I did not record myself because I don't think it will be useful on this time. I prefer just to find references that I could just like use it instead of just trying to do it myself. I think the mechanics will be off. Cool, but I think those are the questions. Yeah, and now we can go back to that question that we had all the way there, like, what would you change? And I do have several notes for my personal projects. Of course, I'm not gonna have like too many notes on professional projects, but for personal projects, I do like this shot here, for example. I love it. It's my favorite shot that I've animated so far. But I do think the rhythm is not good. I think it's very rhythmic, like the beats are very even. So if I had to redo this shot, I would try to play more with the rhythm, for example. Or the other shot where is the this one? This one, I think that this one with the girl making makeup, there's a lot of unnecessary motion and a lot of like moving around, moving around, moving around. Arcs are tracked, but the acting doesn't feel specific enough. That's why this shot is wasn't my real. Mm, cool. So let's go to the questions. What's the reason to change to game animation? So yeah, I happened because DreamWorks Animation they had a layoff after in the middle-ish of Bad Guys, and they had to lay off a few animators, not a few, a bunch of animators from the animation department. I was one of them, and I applied to like few studios. I had a few offers, but I wanted to stay in US in LA specifically, and I was very curious about like how gameplay animation is specifically because feature film I had like few experience in different workflows, and I still like doing, of course, don't get me wrong, but I think it will be a good opportunity to try it because I will be able to stay here in LA, and Riot seems to be like a great company. At the time I didn't know much about like how it is to work there, but I heard good things. So from the offers I had, and they were the only ones sponsoring the visa here in the US. I had some other offers in the US, but they were not sponsoring the visa. So I decided to just like, okay, I'm gonna give a try in game animation, and I like it. I really like it. What's the most hardest point in your life? I mean, there are several challenges along the way in everyone's like personal life, professional life, but I don't know if I have like a hardest one to choose from. I think you if you just get let me take this away. You could just think positive. I think that was the secret. When did you start work? When did you start your short film work? I haven't started yet. I always had like ideas for short film. I always wanted to do a short film, but I never did a short film myself. And see if I have something else. But yeah, I want you guys to pay attention. Like I show all the way from like all the way back there to the latest reel, and you see how there's a lot of evolution and a lot of different shots. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna do this and this shot's gonna be perfect, and I'm gonna use this on my reel that I'm gonna join Pixar because Pixar is my dream studio. I never thought like that. I never thought of in joining Pixar. When I first started, I wanted to first. I had like dreams in phase. I never just like, oh, I'm gonna work at Pixar because it's my favorite studio and I want to work there. At the time, Pixar was like the most for me was the most appealing movies when like back in 2008, 2010, 2012, having like Toy Story 3, Wall-E, Ratatouille, all those like really nice movies. So I was like, oh yeah, but I never even thought about working on a big studio. I was just like, oh, I just wanna not work with lighting and work only with animation. That was my dream. And then I started working on animation. I was like, oh, it'll be so cool to work on like a project that is not here in Brazil, like a bigger project. Oh, it'll be so cool to work on like a series in Canada. So those are like always the style. I wasn't even thinking working feature film. I was just like, oh, it'd be so cool to work in Canada on like a place that they really care more about like the pipeline and workflow. And then when I was a bar, I was like, oh my god, it would be so cool if I could join Sony. I never thought about joining DreamWorks or Blue Sky or anything like that. And then after I finished Sony, I was just like, ah, it would be so cool if I could join like anywhere that I could keep doing the same quality as Sony. And then I got really lucky to join Blue Sky. And every it's funny because every year during this whole time I always apply to DreamWorks and Pixar. I think every year from like 2013 or 14 to the date I got to DreamWorks. So I never really thought about it, but I was just like, oh, it'd be so cool to work at DreamWorks. And then I got the job there. So you see, I didn't like, oh, I wanted to be that soon. It was always like in steps, understanding my level. I always understood my level, and I'm just like, okay, I wouldn't hire myself on that stage. Pretty much, I was always thinking like that. And what's the current situation with animation hiring? I'm not very sure. Going back to that question, I believe like seeing this progression here, the real guys saw me joining Bardell. I do believe if you have a reel similar to that, it's still gonna be acceptable because right now the entry level it is higher, yes, but at the same time there's a lot of um, new jobs. There are more jobs lately, like there are more series being made, more content being produced. So maybe, but I'm not sure to be honest. So it'll be nice to hear from other people. I'll try to bring some guests, like when I brought Ben, he was talking about his like school work and going to Santa Monica. But I'll try to bring more people who can give a better insight on that. But I do believe that reel that we saw back there that it got me into Bardell, it is a good reel to join an entry level studio, but maybe it's not. I don't want yogurt, thank you. On top of that, what does the company expect from an intern now? I never did internship. I always wanted to do internship. I never did. I always wanted to do the internship because I thought it's a great opportunity to really join to learn, and I always join expecting to produce because I was hired like if you hire as a junior, you're expected to produce work, right? And you when you do an internship, they kind of like train you. So yeah, I don't know really about internship. Maybe I'm gonna invite someone that did internships. Uh-huh. And tips to start freelancing. I believe freelancing is just like keep applying, like just apply and see what they say, and try to like find those. I remember finding those websites where a lot of places are just like they post the job opening there, and just like keep applying. If it doesn't work, or if you're like not finished the role, you just don't do it. But I think it's worth it to keep trying. I never had like a magic formula. And yeah, congrats. Life Farm is doing really cool work out there. I'm familiar with their work. I know the supervisors there. They're very nice. We haven't worked together, but that's really nice. Congrats. But yeah, and talking a little bit about visa immigration stuff. Oh, just 1 second. My camera decided to turn off. But I'm still here. So yeah, talking about visa and immigration stuff, it was a little bit hard for me to get visa to the US because they do ask for a lot of stuff from you. Oops. I'm gonna leave the real playing. Just waiting for the a camera here. I'm sorry about that. Let me see if this camera is gonna work back. Ah, cool. Yeah, camera's back. Sorry about that. So, yeah, about like immigration stuff, it was useful for me to have a degree and to have work on projects that are like not that they are famous, but the client is famous. For example, Puss in Boots was a series for Netflix that was being done for DreamWorks TV and distributed at Netflix. So that made it not easier, but better. Better to kind of like get in your resume, and it's very important to have like a good resume. Let me check the question. Why do you think at the same time some studios, with the right requirements and the level animation, were ready to hire you, while others with less complex tasks refused you? I think it's all about timing, to be honest. I think it's about timing and demand. I remember, for example, Brown Studios doing Willowbees, they needed 2 animators, and Sony just finished a project where a lot of animators were available, and they're like right there in Canada. So a lot of people interviewed there. And on the other hand, Blue Sky was in New York, which is like a lot of people don't want to move, and they got, I believe, like 12 or 13 temp animators. And it is a higher quality studio than Brown, but they needed a lot more people. So it's like all about timing and like what the studio needs. Like DreamWorks Animator, they needed, I think before I joined, they haven't hired anyone like any big group of people for like 7, 8 years. And then they had to hire like 15 people to finish Abominable and start the other stuff. So it's all about timing and like having the right opportunity and be prepared for the opportunity with your reel. Let me go back in here. Sorry, the quality of the video got so bad. But yeah. So, you guys have any questions? Anything you want to talk about? I have another one here that I found from another old video here. From basic assignments. This was from the first training back there, Melias, if you guys remember I mentioned on 3D Max. That's cool. And to finish off, now I'm focusing on teaching. Really like teaching. And for me, it's really nice to see the student showcase, for example, because I'm very proud of like what the students are doing. So it's really cool. It's not about my work anymore. It's about how people are getting their work out there in a really high quality because of my mentorship and my help. And of course, the students are amazing.
And I can't, I mean, look, I can't trust you with anything.
Nowadays, layoffs are bothering me in feature film industry. I'm thinking about game animation industry. Can you please talk a lot about it?
Shouldn't even have them in the house, really.
I'll leave this mute. Yeah, so the feature film, it's always like that, where you work a little bit more project based. It never bothered me as much because there's always a project going on somewhere. But the game industry seems, in my understanding now, working a little bit on the game industry, seems to be more stable because you work on a game for longer. But at the same time, for example, Sony Santa Monica, they work on God of War for like 2 years, and then there was a big layoff, and they're gonna have another project in 2 years after they finish. So it can happen the same. It's always the balance, and you always have to like just be smart about the decisions, because if you join a game studio and then you work on a project instead of a feature film studio that has 3 4 projects lined up, you might be better work on the feature film studio, and you're gonna be more stable, for example. So it depends. It depends on the company. It depends on the type of work. I see a lot of people working, for example, at Micros in Canada, and they're working there for like many years already because they have project after project after project. I work at DreamWorks, and I worked there for a couple of years, and they had like project after project after project, and what happened was a very unique situation because of like some rescheduling of project. It's not because they didn't have anything, but they had to reschedule some stuff. That's why the layoff happened. So, but at Riot, it's like staff positions, so you don't have that worry like, oh, the contract ends on this day. So it's all variable. Not a very good person to be asked about this because my experiences when I got laid off, they were all good. I could get like the best out of it, but I do know it's not something very nice to go through. Cool. Well, I guess that's it. I'm still here for questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me also on the Patreon Discord, Animation Flow Patreon. I'm gonna put the website on the chat here. Patreon.com/animationflow. If you guys are interested, whoever is not subscribed, but I believe most of you guys are, hoping. Uh, and that's pretty much it. Let me know if this was useful. Let me know if you had any questions, as always. And it was a pleasure to hang out with you guys. I'll see you all next time. Thank you for taking the time to come today. See you.